Welcome, everybody, to Dead Talk Live. And today we have, writer, director, producer, actor, Matt Shaw. You are a man of many hats. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for inviting me here to have a chat.
Exactly. It is our pleasure to have you here with us all the way from the UK. And I got to tell you, we have a lot of viewers in the UK, and they always ask when I have guests from the United Kingdom, where in the United Kingdom are you from? So let's just get that out of the way. Where in the UK are you from?
I'm from the good part.
Okay.
I'm from down south, so the warmer part of the
Ah,
UK.
exactly. Okay, so there you go, UK fans. You have it, Southern UK. So let's get right into it. Like I said, you've written, directed, produced. You're also an actor. What would you say was one or more than one of those things that got you really interested into this industry?
Uh, you know, None of them. Basically, I guess it was acting, although I haven't really done much acting, funny enough. But when I was younger in primary school, so our first school, aged about 10 years old, my
Mm-hmm.
teacher said, "What do I want to do when I'm older?" And I said I wanted to act and direct. Now, at that time at school, I'd only done a couple of school stage shows, and every one I got my lines wrong. So my teacher, when I told her, she just rolled her eyes at me and just went, "Pfft." And I'll never forget that. And I really hope she's still alive, so I can track her down and just go, look what I'm doing now.
Exactly. That is the best revenge. Look
It's,
at
it's
me now. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Now, you've seen a lot of your work published. What was the moment as a writer that you felt you came onto the scene, that you made it, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, well, I've been writing since I was 12. But I was writing and publishing books for about 10 years before I released one book, and that was called Sick Bastards. And I released it just to upset a publisher who said I was sick in the head. And I thought, if you want sick, I'll give you sick. And I write this thing. It started a graphic sex scene. The door opens, an old woman comes in. For God's sake, put your sister down. Dinner's on the table. And dinner on the table is just this guy strapped to a table, and they're carving him up while he's alive. And I released it thinking I was going to get a massive backlash, but I didn't care.
No.
I enjoyed the story, and it went to number one on Amazon overnight. And I
Eh?
sold the film rights to it, and I was like, okay, so this is the kind of content that people want then,
Yeah.
extreme horror. And it was soon after that. In fact, I thought, what, I'm going to get some young lads are going to read my stuff and they're going to love it. And I've got more female readers than male readers, and I was like, well, I'm writing some disgusting stuff. I just don't get it. And all these people are lovely when you talk to them, but you think, how does this work? How is it the nasty stuff attracts more people than the nice stuff?
Yeah, yeah, and especially in these times that we're living in today, with all the horrors in the real world, people are retreating more and more to the more graphic, horrible stuff. Is it because they feel comforted by something darker than the real world that we're living in? I mean, what do you think?
I have got no idea. I mean, I I'd like to think that my stuff is darker than the real world, but in all honesty, I don't think it is.
No.
Because when I'm writing my horror, it's all very tongue in cheek. It's disgusting stuff, but there's always like an underlying little bit of humor there.
Yeah.
And obviously, with the real world, you get young kids just get abducted and murdered. I mean, recently here in the UK, we had a teenager that was lured by some other kids into a field, and when he got there, the other kids stabbed him to death.
Oh my God.
And you know, I don't think there's anything I can write that would be nastier than that.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I always tell my viewers too that the any fiction you see on the screen pales in comparison to what anyone can create, what the real world puts around us every day.
Yeah,
Now,
there's one film that I watched which has come close to it, and it freaked me out. And I don't know whether you've seen it, but Eden Lake. Have you ever watched that?
mm-mm, no.
Without spoiling anything, it's basically. Do you know what a chav is in America?
Yes.
Yeah, it's basically a guy and a woman
Yeah.
go to the woods to have a camp out, and there's a group of chavs there that decide to torment them. And honestly, it's one of the most disturbing films because you know it could actually happen,
Yeah.
and that's quite freaky.
Exactly, and that's why I think like subgenres like the paranormal stuff that is could really happen. It scares the shit out of people even more, and it attracts them more to go watch it. Uh,
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to writing, do you consider yourself more of a novelist or a screenplay writer?
Oh, I call myself a storyteller. I actually prefer writing screenplays, but I made my living writing books. So I write novellas mainly,
Hmm.
smaller than a novel. But I've published over 300 of them now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like novelist George R. R. Martin said, there's typically two types of writers: gardeners who plant seeds and let the stories grow, and architects who plan every little aspect. Now, between screenwriting and novels, which categories do you fall in for the different various projects that you have done?
I'm probably one of those guys that just gets a load of seeds, throws them, hopes for the best, and runs to the next project. You know,
And don't
George,
look back.
yeah, I never look back at my other work, because I'm very aware that my earlier work isn't going to be as polished as the stuff I'm doing now.
Yeah.
It's like now I'm starting to take, ideas from George and from Stephen King, where although I'm writing novellas, I'm trying to tie them into a greater universe that features all of my work. So if you come along as a reader, you don't have to have read my other stuff.
Yeah.
But if you have, you'll recognize little nods towards my other stories.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But
Now,
really, yeah, really with books, I just write them and then just move on to the next one.
one of the most creative writers that I have ever had the pleasure of listening to speak at a convention has been Clive Barker. I don't know if
Mm.
you're a fan of Clive Barker, but I've mentioned this many times on the show. Here is this very nice mannered, person, but when you hear him speak, when you hear him talk about his creative process, it is the most sick, sadistic, beautiful creative mind you could possibly imagine, and how he came up with Hellraiser and all his other works. And it's amazing, you know, what lies in the minds of people and what they can create.
Yeah, I mean, I personally not a fan of Clive Barker's work, but I can appreciate it. And
Hmm.
the guy this is meant with the utmost respect. He is one sick son of a bitch.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
but I absolutely adore his artwork that he does, and I'd love to own some of it. But I mean,
Hmm.
when that sells, it sells for more than I can afford.
Yeah, yeah. For you, what is the hardest aspect of turning a book into a screenplay?
Um, because I make the films myself, it's going to be the budget restrictions. So I've got I've got over 300 stories, and some of them I know for a fact would make fantastic films. And I'm not just saying that. Um, but I can't turn it into a screenplay because I know I can't afford to then go and film it. And I could cut corners with it to make it affordable to film, but then I feel like I'm cheating my readers by releasing that.
I totally get it. Is it because those cutting corners? Do you mean, a book obviously contains a hell of a lot of information. It can be pages and pages just to describe a scene. When you say cutting corners, what aspect do you think would take away from the integrity of the film?
The violence, basically the effects. If I write in a book that, well, put it this way, we've just filmed March, just gone, a film called The Call,
Hmm.
and I actually wrote that as a screenplay first. And then, because I normally write books first and then adapt it, I thought, you know what, I'm going to try and adapt it the other way around. And at the end of The Call, when we are basically torturing this poor woman, the book is really, really graphic. And now we're in post production for the film. We're editing it all together. I'm like, you know what? I want to include these scenes from the book, but it means filming stuff which is going to be very costly to film.
Yeah.
And there's ways round it where I can just cheat shots and things like that. But because of what we want to film, because it's quite sexually aggressive and explicit, it's just going to be really hard to find someone willing to do it for us.
It always comes down to money and getting the right money to make sure you don't cheat the project and you put out something that, putting the audience aside, that you're happy with. That's the bottom line.
Weirdly, I'm not happy with anything I've ever made.
You're a perfectionist.
It's just, I've got so many, I'll say it, I've got so many great ideas in my head, and translating them from my head to the screen because of a lack of budget is incredibly difficult. And we filmed Box at the start of the year, and it's coming out soon. I think it was like the fifth time I was watching it. I was like, what would have been better is if we did this, this, and this. And the guy that filmed it with me and who also edited it, he was like, yeah, that would have been much better. But we can't go back and redo it now.
Exactly.
It's finished. So you're just like, oh, crap. And it seems to be an ongoing thing with my films. I finish them and then I'm like, I wish we had done, well, like with The Call, there's more I want to do. So we are actually setting aside a weekend at the end of October to actually film these scenes.
Good.
So fingers crossed, that might be a film I'm happy with.
Now, I always hear with people from the United Kingdom, you brought up financing, how hard it is over there to get financing to do movies. Is that your perspective as well?
Yeah, well, I've kind of come into the industry kind of cheating, as it were, where I haven't actually approached anyone, any film production companies for money. I've crowdfunded everything I've ever done.
That seems to be the new thing.
Well, the reason I do it is because, take Box, for example. It's basically me in a box for an hour and a half. So I'm on death row. I have the injection. I wake up in a box.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, why is he in there? Bloody blah. Now, we could shoot that for not a lot of money because we own the film equipment. And all of us work on these films for free, because we think, what, if it makes money later, we'll take a cut.
Mm-hmm.
And so, by working for free and working on smaller projects, it's easier to crowdfund the money. So we made Box. It ended up costing about $5,000 to make it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, same with The Call. The Call cost, I think that's round about the same. The next film is more expensive. But that's also because I purposely write small scale scripts, so one location.
And when it comes to distribution, have you been lucky enough to get, distribution pretty easily, or was it a real challenge?
Because I was new to the film industry, I shot a film called Monster back in 2018. And we had this guy that was selling it for us. And it didn't end brilliantly. And we've both had to sign to say we won't mention names or discuss what happened. So because that had dragged on for so long, I decided just to release the film myself through Amazon.
Exactly. A lot of people don't know that anybody can release something through Amazon.
Yeah, you have to make it so it goes past their quality checks.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a passionate filmmaker, that shouldn't be an issue for you anyway.
No.
So we did that. We were lucky enough to get the money back for Monster, for the actual film. And then when was the second film out? We shot another film, an anthology horror film called Next Door.
There you go. We're gonna get to that in a minute here too. Yeah.
Oh God, I'm sorry. And we just released that the same way because we thought it worked for Monster, it'll work for this. It didn't. We made a loss on that one. And then we did a stupid film straight out of lockdown. They came from the sky. I saw them. It was only ever meant to be a joke, but it ended up being so fun to watch that we thought we'd release it, but we wouldn't try and get distribution for it.
Oh, okay.
So the first film we actually looked at getting distribution for was Box, and we were just getting turned down left, right, and centre. The one company that turned around and said yes to us, we looked a bit more into who the company was, and we just weren't comfortable signing away with them.
Gotcha.
And since looking further into that company and someone we know having first-hand experience with them, we made the right decision because we would have been screwed over.
Oh yeah, there are a lot of shady characters out there. So Next Door, it appears that you're not very proud of it. I don't, I thought it was pretty good. It was released in 2020 during the lockdown on Amazon, right? Now releasing it during the lockdown. Obviously you're not happy with the results that the movie produced. Looking back, what would you attribute to it not being that successful?
Basically, Amazon, because of lockdown and COVID, Amazon started working with less staff. So we actually tried to release Next Door the moment we were locked down. But it got delayed until the week before we came out of lockdown.
Okay.
So then as soon as we were out of lockdown, people, they didn't want to watch a film anymore. And there was this guy that backed the film through Kickstarter. He messaged me and he said, "Hey Matt, I've just watched Next Door. I love what you do. The film was fantastic, blah, 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 blah. Can you make it so I can leave a review on IMDb?" So I was like, "Oh, thanks very much. Glad you liked it." And, we'll get to why I wasn't a fan of it in a minute, or wasn't initially a fan of it. So I unlocked it on IMDb, said it was released, and this guy gave me a 1-star review and said it was the biggest piece of shit he's ever watched.
Now, why would somebody do that?
And then I went back to him and just with laughing emojis. And on my Patreon page, I destroyed him because it's locked down to my fans, so it's not in the public forum. I didn't realise the prick was part of my Patreon page.
Oh.
And the next thing I know, over the next few days, before the film's on Amazon, I suddenly had loads of 1-star reviews, all of them linked to this one account. So I was like, right, okay, well, there's a lesson for me there.
Yeah.
But I just want to say, I did watch Next Door in March again. And I enjoyed it a lot more this time because I've had time away from it. But, when we were filming it, it was just a comedy of errors. I mean, did you actually watch it all?
Yeah.
The black and white segment, which goes into a silent movie?
Yes.
Subtitles. That wasn't supposed to be in it at all. But when we came to film, the traffic was so bad and so noisy, and the sunlight was glaring so much off the camera that I was like, right, what if we make it black and white? And the cameraman was like, that'll work. It's like, what if we make it 1920s, speed the footage up, add crackles, do the dialogue, I'll rewrite the dialogue as 1-card bits. And he was like, yeah, that'll work. And that happened so much during the film, because I'm in that film as well in 2 scenes. I was supposed to be in one scene, but the actor who was doing a scene where he basically gets a hand job off Laura Ellen Wilson's character, he messaged me 7 o'clock the day of the shoot to say he wasn't coming. So 7 o'clock. I'm downstairs where we're shooting it with a film director called Peter McKiernan, and we're rewriting his scene to make it tie into my character, so we can make it one extended scene.
Yeah.
And it was just things like that through the whole shoot. And by the end of it, it's like, I want to die.
It's like one folly after another. But you did it. You finished it. It is out there for people. The Next Door is available on Amazon Prime. I liked it.
It's weird. I like it now that I've had time away from it, because it wasn't the film we set out to make. But now I look at it, I think, you know what? It's actually pretty original, whether you like it or not. It's different. And that's kind of what I want to do with my films. I want to make something different every time.
Yeah. Now, to give you an example, in one of the opening sequences, we see a character going through a rapid change of emotions and in rapid succession. Was there any challenges in writing that and getting your vision onto the screen of that particular sequence?
Can you remind me what the sequence was about?
The guy was just going through the whole, just anger, rage, and then flipping back to calmness, and I forget the character's name, but he's just going through this rapid succession of emotions, like boom, 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 boom.
I can't remember the scene. Do you know what he was doing in it?
Oh, God. For me, just that part of him going in and out of this rage back to calmness is what sticks out to me. What he was doing, I don't remember. But let's just use it as an overall general question. When you're writing something like that in a character who is going through a wide range of emotions in a pretty short period of time, and you're putting it on paper, do you ever ask yourself, okay, how am I going to show this on the screen?
Not really, because I find it kind of easy to. That's me. That is my character, right? 1 minute I'll be happy, the next minute I want to kill you. The next minute I'll be laughing about that. So I go through a lot of emotions on a daily basis, up until the point where I break, and then I just shut everything down for a little while, and then I restart. So to get that on camera, we literally just set the camera up. I tell the actor what I need to do, and if we need to stop and then go from a different angle to give him time to come away and go into it. But mainly it's down to how something's written. Yeah. If something's written realistically, like there's a scene in there that from a guy who's talking to someone who killed his daughter, and there would be a lot of emotion there. You hate this person, but at the same time you're thinking about your daughter who you miss, and you're listening to this person say sorry, and you're battling with that emotion. That if the writing's on point, then an actor really shouldn't struggle to convey all of those emotions.
Okay, got you. So when you're directing, are you the kind of the director that really just tells, have a discussion with the actor and then let them do their thing, or you're really hands-on with your actors, step by step on what you want them to do?
No, I try and leave them to it. So if I've got a certain idea for something and I want it, I'm happy to keep doing those takes until I get it. But as a director, I think it's important to be able to let the actor have room to breathe.
Yeah.
Because there's a chance that they're going to bring something to the table that you didn't think about. And that's happened to me quite a lot. When I was casting for the film we're doing next year, I asked, funny enough, Laura Ellen Wilson again to audition for me, and I didn't give her any pointers. I just gave her this monologue which showed different levels of emotion, and then she just went ahead and did it. Now, yeah. I know, because she did it so well, that I can leave her, because the script says the emotion that's needed.
Yeah.
It doesn't go into too much detail, but it says, angry, sad. Then just let the actor do their thing. Then when they're working, if they nail it, but you still get another idea, then you have a quick chat with them and just say, I like that. Can we try this?
Gotcha.
But, I just think everyone should be given room to do their thing.
Now, with Next Door, we are introduced to these characters, and we're not really given a lot of background on them. What was your thought process in developing them? Did you want to leave the background to these different characters up to the viewer's interpretation?
Yeah, because I think Next Door, just for the listeners, I mean, it's an anthology. So basically, it's loads and loads of little films. Some of them are a couple of minutes long, and I wanted to tell the story in the present. Now, by the time you start worrying about what that character is in the past, you're kind of killing time.
Yeah,
You know, you're wasting time you don't have. I want to tell this story, and by concentrating on the present, it means that you can throw a twist in there that the audience won't see coming
yeah.
because they don't realize that that's the character they've been watching.
Gotcha. Now, I think one of the reasons why I liked Next Door were the performances. I thought the performances by the actors were really spot on. Were you happy with the performances they gave you?
For the most part, yeah. I mean, for one, a lot of the actors in that film are actually off British television series. So some of them aren't doing anything at the moment, but I grew up watching some of those actors. So next thing, because I actually filmed it in my old house, so I've got like Jamie Lomas. He's in a TV program called Hollyoaks over here, which is pretty big. And I'm sitting there one day, just thinking, Jamie Lomas is sitting in my living room having his makeup done. I was like, life has got suddenly very peculiar for me. And when you go to the shops just to get some lunch, and you've got someone from another TV soap, and as you're walking past, members of the public are like, "Oh, can we get a picture with them?" So I expected the acting to be good for that.
It was
And
good
then,
casting. I think it definitely added to the appeal of the movie.
yeah, I mean, we thought it would help when it came to selling the movie, because if we had names that people know, companies in England would be more likely to take the film on because they'll be like, oh, fans of Jamie Lomas will watch that, fans of such and such. But I also learned that working with some of the actors who are from television is also a ball ache, because there was one person, and because I've mentioned him, I just want to say now it was not Jamie Lomas. But there was one person, I tried giving directing notes to them, and they just nodded, like, yeah, 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 shut their eyes and leaned back in their chair while I'm talking to them.
Oh God.
There was another one who made such racist and homophobic remarks on set that my makeup artist never came back to set. And when they got to the end of what they considered to be their day, they were like, well, my train's in a couple of hours. Who's going to give me a lift to the train station?
So you had a lot of egos to deal with.
Only two egos.
Okay.
And the rest of the people were absolutely lovely. And, I'd work with any of them again. Even the ones that gave me a hard time, because Next Door was my second feature film.
Yeah.
I've grown a lot from everything I've experienced in the film industry and the people I've worked with. I am better prepared to deal with people like that.
Gotcha. Now, you see in this movie, Next Door, you bring a lot of characters from your prior shorts and novels. What is it about these characters that you like that you keep bringing them back in different movies?
Well, when I was writing it, because you're referring to basically, I wrote a series of books called Fucked Up Shorts.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're short stories, I thought, what, this would translate well to a short film. So I was like, if I'm honest, it's laziness.
Not wanting to create a new character.
Yeah, I mean, some of the characters in Next Door I've never written about before, like the guy that wears the pig mask.
Mm-hmm.
I've never written about him before. The guy that is writing a letter because he's going to kill himself, I've never written about him before. But like the escort who kills people, there's a story about a baby in there, which at the film premiere, of Monster, a young lady called Chloe who was training to be a midwife, she told me this story about what happened in a, when a lady gave birth, and I was like, that's awful. I have to make that into a film, and I did. But yeah, so it's laziness. If they appear in a book, it's because I just know it would translate well to screen.
Now, Next Door being your second feature film, did you feel you gained a lot of experience with your first feature film that you carried over and it made Next Door a lot easier to direct and shoot?
It made Next Door was easier to shoot because we spent, I think, about a year and a half making Next Door.
Wow.
Because
wow.
we were just shooting these short films all over the place, and then when we figured we had enough, I sat down and rewrote the script to make them all go together in one cohesive story.
Mm-hmm.
So literally it was like, we've got a short film, let's make that. We've got another short film, let's make that. With Monster, the first film, we didn't do shot lists. We did nothing. So I literally showed up on the day and I was like, I want this, I want that, and I want that, which is a god awful way of working. Because the sound guy needs to know where he's going to stand. The camera guy needs to know where to set up. So we learned with Next Door to storyboard, do the shot lists, and just then we learned loads of different forms that we've designed.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're filming it, we can just do tick sheets to know that we've got everything we need before we move on. Now, so yeah, we learned a lot.
Yeah, it's it's experience. Now, Next Door does carry some comedic elements. Is that, just listening to you talk, that doesn't seem to be something that you would normally write about. What made you put in some light-hearted moments in Next Door? Some would say comedic elements.
Yeah, I mean, I think the comedy comes from the fact that it is still very dark humor. So it's still kind of like a horror world. But I think if you were going to make an anthology film, and God knows I've seen this enough, churned out on Netflix at the moment, if it's all just horror, it gets really boring. You need something to break it up, to give the audience room to breathe and sit back, have a laugh at something, and then throw something horrible at them again and start the process all over. I think if it's just horror, 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 I think the audience gets bored and they come to expect it. And I'd rather keep them on their toes.
Now, the lighthearted moments, is that something you throw in as a director directly with the characters and what they do or say, or is it the location, the setting? How do you approach bringing the lighter moments onto the screen? Is it just strictly through character or just visual elements?
It varies from film to film. I mean, normally it's done through character. But when we did They Came From the Sky, I Saw Them, which is kind of my love letter to Monty Python and the Naked Gun films, there was going to be a scene where the two characters are having a phone call and they've got tin cans with string because it's that kind of weirdness.
Yeah.
And we built the sets so they're in different parts of the set. And I was looking at it on the screen when we're filming it, and the guy's arm kind of blended into the background of the shot. So I thought, what would be funny is if we just got masking tape, so black masking tape, put it down the center of the set, taped the guy and the girl's arm into that, so the line went over both of them. So when you're watching it, at first glance, it looks like a split screen. But then you realize, well, no, it's just taped.
Yeah.
And that is a very stupid example of comedy, but that was why it just came on the day because of how it looked. So yeah, it varies.
Now, it would be a fair statement to say that your passion is deep within the horror genre.
Yeah, I mean, I like horror and I like comedy. That doesn't mean I don't look at other genres because, in my writing world, I've done science fiction, I've done erotica, I've done sad stories, tearjerkers. but I tend to have more fun with the horror genre and the community that comes along with it. Because although they're reading horrible stuff, these people, they're batshit crazy in a fun way, you know?
They're
They're just,
passionate, yeah.
yeah, and they're fun to talk to. But you also know if you're having a proper conversation with them, 9 times out of 10, they're perfectly sane. But when you get them excited about horror, then you can just, yeah, it's just great fun.
It is a lot of fun. And, you know, I hate when I read articles and these writers write horror, the most underappreciated genre. I think, yeah, maybe going back 20, 30 years, that might be true. But horror is one of the top genres and most watched genres in today's world. So I
Yeah,
think the people, the writers, the media behind the horror industry, they like to hold on to that claim that we're so underappreciated. And the only place that I would agree with that is when it comes to awards. Horror does not get the respect and recognition when it comes to award seasons.
no,
But
definitely not.
yeah, but when it comes to fans, it's, in my opinion, the top or one of the top genres out there today. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do a lot of book signings at Comic Con, because I'm a geek. And
Well, I'm going to
I
Comic Con, the New York Comic Con, in just 2 weeks.
see, I'd love to do that. I did the New Jersey Comic Con. No, sorry, New Jersey Walker Stalker
Okay.
event. But that's what I'm about to get to. It's the fact that I did the Comic Con. I had a blast, and the people that went there, obviously great. And I love all the cosplay stuff because you get some absolutely mental costumes, like Warhammer type stuff and things.
Yeah.
But then I did a Walker Stalker event, which is solely based on The Walking Dead and a few odds and strands of horror as well. That is the busiest show
Yeah.
I have ever seen, and I took 4 big boxes of books with me, and I sold out in 2 days, and that is
Wow.
unheard of at a convention. So yeah, don't tell me that horror is underrated or by the general public,
Yeah.
uh, or it's not appreciated because, like I said, that was the biggest event I've ever seen.
I think it's the higher up executives that want to keep horror in this like exclusive, non mainstream culture, and they don't want to let go of that and admit that horror is one of the most popular genres out there right now.
Yeah, I mean James Wan certainly did his bit to help bring horror back
Oh,
with
yeah.
all of his films. I like some of his films, and some of them are just a massive misfire for me. But then he went and did a film for himself, *Malignant*.
I saw
Uh,
it. Did you see it?
I did, unfortunately. I couldn't stand it.
You didn't like it. It was different from his other stuff.
Yeah, some of the shots I absolutely loved, like when she's walking around the top part of the house, and we're like in the attic, kind of following. Um,
Yeah,
like,
I think he went a little too much on the CGI. The Act Three, you know, when the reveal and we see what's going on, it was the CGI was very noticeable. I guess, for lack of a better term, it was very
for me, I think the companies behind him just turned around and went, you know what, you've proven yourself. Go make a film for yourself. And he was like,
exactly.
it's Christmas. I'm going to go crazy. And he did, because I just feel if they had made *Malignant* like half an hour shorter,
Hmm.
because when the Act 3 happened, I was like, okay, yes, nice. And then it carried on. I was like, all right, I get it. I'm bored now, you know? And I just think if they had trimmed it a bit, it would have been more impactful. But clearly he was having fun.
It was. He was having fun, and you're right. James Wan has proved himself. He's great at what he does, you know, in the paranormal subgenre, and you could tell when you're watching a big budget horror film. I mean, there was no expense spared with the computer graphics on this thing when she is shifting in and out of that dream state and the
Yeah.
rooms melting away. I thought that was fantastic. My only issue was in the end when we got the big reveal and we got to see what it actually looks like, it didn't really. Somewhere there was a little bit of a misfire, I think.
It's kind of it was built up better when we first saw it in the shadows in Act One.
Exactly. That was
That's
mysterious.
yeah, and I was like, I like the twist, I like the reveal, but then I was like, now I've seen it. If they ended it there, I would have
Yeah.
been happy, but because it carried on, I was just like, now you lost me again.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Now, moving forward, like you write, direct. Would you feel comfortable giving your writing to another director to direct?
Oh, definitely, yeah,
And do you feel comfortable as a director taking another writer's work?
100%. Yep,
Okay.
I actually wrote A Nightmare on Elm Street up all night, and we filmed it in 2020, just before lockdown happened in the UK.
Yeah.
So I was over in Seattle in February filming it because the director that I gave it to, he said, "I'm only going to direct it if you're going to act in it." And I thought, well, okay, because basically the character was based on me anyway. The guy's a loser. So I was like, yeah, I'll fly in, I'll act in it, and I'll go home. And I was lucky because we hired Mick Strawn.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, he's done Nightmare on Elm Street,
Yeah.
Sid and Nancy, and watching because he actually directed some of that for us, and watching him direct and watching him do the production design, I learned so much from that guy. He's a goddamn genius, and so I would have no issues. My only thing that I would like is if someone was directing my work, I would like the ability to pay for myself to go and have a day just to watch him film.
Well,
So
yeah. As the writer of the work, I would assume that would be a given.
normally, but you don't want to presume.
Exactly. Now,
Sorry, go
moving,
on.
sorry, moving forward, which projects you have a lot of stuff in pre-production, and so on. Which one should we really keep an eye out and like you're most proud of? And well, it's in pre-production, so it actually hasn't been done yet. But which one are you most excited about?
I'm excited about them all for different reasons, and I'll give you quick reasons why. The call that we're making at the moment is a slasher film, but it has nods to David Lynch and Oliver Stone with the way they tell their stories,
Okay.
with the flashes and things that we're throwing in there, and it's going to be quite an uncomfortable film for people to watch. We're doing Chained in January, which I've actually got in trouble for already because people say that I side with rapists and agree with rapists because I'm making this film, and I'm like, no, you are missing the entire point
Yeah.
of this. But I'm excited about that because we're using different mediums in it. Again, we played around with stage shows in They Came, so we're doing more of the stage show stuff where the actors in an uncomfortable situation, one of them's like, do you think what it could have been like between us? And we cut to a stage show with audience cheering them, and it's just really fucked up.
Yeah.
And then Love Life, which we were supposed to film 2 years ago, but COVID. Love Life I'm excited about because it's closer to a film called Leaving Las Vegas. Don't know if you've seen it with Nick Cage.
I have. Yep.
One of my favorite drama films. So I wanted to do that, but cross it with Psycho. So there's just different reasons why I'm excited for them all.
Awesome. Awesome. Have you ever done any shooting here in the United States?
Not with me directing, only acting,
Okay.
and that was Nightmare on Elm Street.
What do you think about, what's the biggest difference working in the UK as opposed to the United States, acting or whatnot? I mean, is it the same beast or completely different?
Acting wise was the same for me. I just flew in, did my lines, and fucked off home. Directing wise, from what I see, it seems more people in America are keen to get involved with films. So we found a bar location really easily. She shut the bar down for us. Mick went in and changed bits around to make it look presentable for camera. Here in England, you can be like, hey, can I film? No. They're like, well, I'll pay you. No. And it just seems a lot harder. Americans seem a lot more passionate about being involved.
Awesome, awesome. Matt, I want to thank you so much. This has been a fascinating hour, and you're just a very creative guy, and I love that you like to push boundaries.
And I
And
love the fact that you enjoyed bits of Next Door.
I did, I did, and I like watching filmmakers who take risks, push boundaries, not to please the audience, but for themselves to see, what they're capable of. And I see a lot of that in you, and I definitely respect and appreciate that. And I thank you for giving it to us.
Well, thank you. I mean, hopefully it will work out and people will enjoy it. But I
Mm-hmm.
just feel as filmmakers, if you're a filmmaker yourself, we need to think outside the box and look at different ways of doing things. We
Exactly.
can't just copy every film we go and watch. I
Exactly.
borrow bits from directors that I like, but I'm trying to morph my own thing. So yeah, I think it's important for everyone to try and find
Yeah.
their
It,
ideas, stick with it.
it's so easy to see something and then try to copy it, maybe make a little changes, but that's the easy way out. Creating something your own, that's the hard part. Anyway, thank you so much, Matt. We did have technical issues on the live, so I'm going to repost this interview recorded in a little bit. Sorry to all our live viewers who are not watching this live, but will be watching this recorded. I
Ooh.
apologize. Thank you so much. And is it your birthday tomorrow?
It is, yeah.
Happy birthday and
Nice memory.
enjoy the Bond film. Uh, anyway, guys, stay safe. And on behalf of Matt and myself, stay walking. Bye bye.
Thanks very much.